That's right, we've binned off Daniel Ricciardo from ever getting another chance at Formula 1 and instead gave Liam Lawson the chance. So I'm basically going to be driving as him for the remainder of the 2023 season with a few challenges to go by. The main 4 challenges are: I cannot upgrade the car at any point in the season, and we all know how much of a tractor the AlphaTauri is. Secondly, I must score points in at least 3 races. Third is that I must outscore the Short King himself, Yuki Tsunoda. And lastly, we cannot DNF in 3 or more races, and with Japan, Singapore and Vegas still on the calendar, we all may know where this is going to go. For Liam's first race, there wasn't much expectations for an amazing result, just to get used to the car and bring it home. For qualifying, we had a bit of a moment on our first run and luckily kept it out of the barriers. Oh, no. With our second run, we managed to just pit UK, in which I thought we would out-qualify in. Well, I was so wrong. We had an awful last quali lap in which we qualified down in last place and 4 tenths off UK. Not terribly far off, but there is some improvement which is needed. For the race, we decided to go for a different strategy to our teammate and start on the mediums and then softs for the end to see if we have a mega last stint. We started the race well and managed to get ahead of UK into 16th place for the start of our first race. What? We knew we might not have the pace in the initial part of the race. After a few laps holding off UK, we decided to play the team game and let him through on his soft tyres. We got to the pit window on lap 10 and with high hopes for the rest of the race on fresh softs. Didn't start great.
That begs the queue. Do we need to take a ticket?
With being blocked in the pits by Logan Sargent, we came out behind Alex Albon and our teammate not even in sight. After a couple of laps, we managed to get Albon until a couple of laps later he pretty much passed us straight away again. The softs immediately died off and we ended up finishing the race in P18. And to Monza, the home of AlphaTauri and Liam Lawson's second race. And we wasn't greeted too well with the qualifying session to be rained out, making it Liam's first time driving a Formula 1 car in the wet. It wasn't a great session for us with many mistakes in the wet, which ultimately meant we qualified in P20 again.
You are an apocalyptic dingleberry.
Not too disheartened seeing it was our first time in the wet and the gap was about the same from last weekend. We had to go into this race with a different mindset. Once again we had a good start and managed to get in the mix with the mid-pack at the start of the race. The mid-pack was pretty mixed together and going down into turn 1 we outbraked ourselves into the back of Norris, breaking our front wing.
I am stupid.
At this point it was damage limitation and try get to the pits and bring the car home. It started well as we managed to get past the main pack of cars and bring a gap to ourselves even with the broken front wing. Before pitting we also managed to catch up to the poor left behind Sergio Perez.
No! 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 Fuck! Shit!
And being the idiot I am, immediately made another mistake coming out and got a time penalty. At this point I was thinking I was no better than De Vries and would surely get the sack soon if I didn't bring it together for the next few races. In the end we got overtaken by everyone from the mid pack and finished in a familiar place of P18. Singapore was where we needed redemption and where I believe this is one of, if not the best opportunity for us to get in the points. For quali our runs weren't great, but in the final run we managed to put in an okay lap and out qualify our teammate, but it is in P18. But that 3 tenths gap to UK will give us a bit of confidence going into the race. And for the start of the race we had one of our usual great starts and got up to 11th place.
Where was that for?
We're friends.
After a bit of a duel with Lance for a lap or 2, we did unfortunately lose the position back to him, going down to P12.
We did absolutely nothing wrong.
And also left with utter embarrassment after being outpaced by a billionaire's son. However, we got a major lifeline from Charles Leclerc, who had one of his typical engine failures.
Tough time never lasts.
Which put us just outside the points and behind Piastri. For the next half of the race we kept the pace behind Oscar and got to the pit stops. With Oscar putting on the mediums and we put on the softs, we managed to take a risky but crucial dive bomb on him to take P10.
Wow, great control.
Lap after lap went by and going into the last couple of laps, lap 13, going under the bridge of Singapore. Yep, we absolutely bottled it. I can already hear Helmut Marko ringing Liam's phone and the pressure coming ever heavier for the rest of the season. Next was Japan, and I knew it wouldn't be a great weekend because I'm always trash around this circuit. The qualifying was dreadful, starting last, and even worse in the race, the two mistakes on the same corner kinda pissing me off and resulting in me retiring from the race, meaning I only had one more DNF until the end of the season. For Qatar, I didn't realise it was a sprint weekend, and I usually run good around here, so a chance to score points in 2 races to help one of our challengers. In qualifying, I managed to put in a mega lap on the final run to put Liam into his highest ever starting position of P8, and a good chance to not only score points in the sprint but also in the race. For the start of the sprint, we had a solid start, making one move on Hamilton.
Stop crying, man, get back on the track.
After a lap of holding him off, he did make the overtake on us.
He's really going for it. He's really throwing the car around.
And limbered up nicely. It maybe took him a while to get going in this race, but he's now showing his skills.
We managed the gap very well behind him, and coming from massive pressure from Fernando, I managed to come across the line in P8 to get Liam's first points in Formula 1 and start up some momentum going forward. Seeing we had great pace in the sprint and hanging on to the back of Hamilton, it showed we had a good opportunity to bag some great points in the main race. As usual, we had a great start, passing a few cars and actually managing to get up to P4 after I believe Max had some damage and had to come in. After a lap or so hanging on to the back of Perez, we unfortunately didn't have the straight line speed and got passed by Russell. By lap 6, the mid-pack started to get their pace on us and passed us, dropping us down to P7 as we got into the pits, which then dropped us down to P8 after losing out to Ocon, but as the laps went by, things went from good to worse. After getting overtaken by Lance, dropping us out of the points, we also got damage on our front wing after he parked it on the apex, and then we had a DRS failure straight after, meaning it was stuck open. We ended up losing all pace in the end, and our car MFD looking like it came from the scrapyard.
Look at this, Pratt!
We ended up finishing P15 after getting pipped by Joe on the line. Texas was yet another sprint weekend and an opportunity to get our points objective this weekend, but after a mere qualifying down in P19 but ahead of our teammate, we managed to have a decent sprint race, finishing in P14, and with a bit of good luck could potentially score points on race day. But that didn't happen. I managed to get another good start into the points for the first few laps, but after being overtaken by Ocon on lap 4, we broke our front wing on the back of him and had to pit early. We then spent most of the race at the back, and when Shaw finished his stop, he decided to do one of his iconic dive bomb moves, which then caused damage to my front wing again. And after pitting one more time, I ended up finishing in P19. Then on to Mexico, which was a decent weekend, just finishing outside of the points, in which could have been a points finish if someone other than Lance Stroll didn't decide to hit us again.
No! No! No!
I swear this guy has been involved in every key moment I've had this season. He's really got something against Liam Lawson ever stepping foot into Formula 1. But yeah, finished unfortunately in P13. Hopefully the next 3 races will have some points in hand. But Brazil wasn't one of them. It was a heartbreaking weekend, and after a slow start to the weekend, qualifying in P18 and then spinning in the sprint. Fortunately, we started 15th due to the engine penalties from others and a chance of rain in the race, but we didn't need the rain for the most part as we had a good start, passed a few cars and was in the points for the majority of the race until the rain actually came. And thanks to the amazing game design and graphics, like just look at this weather and me thinking as any other human would that it's time for inters. Well, apparently not, as the slicks seem to be an equal performance in these conditions, and we ended up finishing in P15, meaning we had 2 races left to score points in. Vegas, the gambling capital of the world and where showbiz runs riot, and where Formula 1 would leave its rubber behind. The start of this weekend was something good, but just before we get into that, take a look at the R&D screen just to show how far behind we are. But anyway, after a solid qualifying session starting in P12, a track in which I thought we would be dead slow due to our straight line deficit we've had for most of the season, but I think due to the low drag package it really helped us around here.
We've been waiting for this all season long, all lined up. Brand new dawn for Formula 1, and it's lights out! out and away we go!
After a good start and sitting in a comfortable 11th place, we managed the pace quite well and passed Stroll on lap 3, fortunately without any damage this time from him. But as we watched the Alpines battle in front of us, the two unexpectedly collided, sending Gasly round with major damage. This really played it into our hands, getting us up into 7th place with solid pace over the next few laps, and after Hamilton retiring, lap 5 started and in sector 2 this happened. Yep, a mistake into turn 12, we spun and crashed into Alonso, meaning Liam's chances of keeping the AlphaTauri seat was surely out of the window, seeing we couldn't score in more than 2 races till the end of the season, and we were also at the limit of our DNFs. We had plenty of chances to score points like Singapore and Texas, but ultimately bottled it for Liam Lawson.